let's begin with Mr. Geraci. Mr. Geraci, there are multiple approaches that we are looking at, lots of modeling going on, but there are many variables and many unknowns. Give me a sense of where we stand in terms of dealing with the dilemma of either flattening the curve or flattening the economy.
I don't think it's actually a dilemma. One solution that I have advocated here in Italy is that a complete lockdown done early enough and done well would have been both in the interest of the containing the virus and also of the economy, because we would have taken a hit maybe for 1 month, but then the recovery would have been quicker and more speedy. Rather than not being able to take strict measures, the effect is that the problem just lingers for the several weeks, for several months, and both the economy and the health situation do not get solved. So my view is that really there is no dilemma if things are done right. But I listened with interest to what you said. You said that the general public does not understand maths and exponential maths. My fear is that some politicians don't understand it either, and their underestimate of the risks I think has been the cause of continuous and even increasing problems.
Okay, so one of the sort of flattening the curve is to actually act very quickly, very early, and go for a lockdown, and then try and flatten the curve. But once that does not happen, and the spread begins exponentially, then there is a real problem with how to go about it, because the healthcare systems obviously get overwhelmed, and at the same time, the economy begins to take the hit. And as I said, there are lots of unknowns, and this is decision-making under uncertainty. So now give me a sense of, let's take the example of Italy right now. Italy was one of the worst hit. Where do things stand now?
We stand with a very high number of cases. Around 25,000 people have died. And the economy this year is expected to go down -10, but to be honest, I think it will be more closer to -15. And that's not the end of the story, because we are running the risk of having entire sectors not just go down this year, but completely wiped out for the next several years. Tourism, it's not just the tourists that don't come to Italy this year. It's the fact that many hotels, restaurants, and all the chain will go down, will disappear. And so even if tourists want to come to Italy next year, there won't be places to go, because we will risk to have what we call it desertification of the output of the supply. And this is true in many sectors: manufacturing, tourism, fashion also takes a hit. And the problem is that this could be a very, very serious impact on the Italian economy and society. And as I said, I re-emphasize it. I think policymakers do not get it. They don't understand how serious this is. That's why we are now, you asked me what's going on in Italy, we are now talking about reopening next week on May 4th, but we are reopening without giving people masks, protections. It's not clear which sectors can reopen and why. We are debating young people, old people. The thing is, it's all done on the impetus of the moment, without in-depth analysis. And without analysis of what can be reopened, how far, what happens to transport, one seat every 3 on a plane, every 5, everyone just wakes up in the morning and says their own views. We lack a serious analytical plan. This is my snapshot of the situation of Italy now.
Okay. I'm going to return to you, because I also talked about a certain kind of rearrangement. Perhaps, as I said, the Homo economicus needs to begin to rethink how economies are shaped. But let me, for now, before I wrap up, let me go back to Mr. Geraci here. Mr. Geraci, as former Italian Undersecretary of State for Economic Development, I talked about rearranging the economy. Are there any lessons here in terms of this pandemic which we need to carry forward in terms of how we reshape the way we do business?
I think so. So it's a little bit early, but what we can see is I see more and not less globalization. This may be different from what we hear about. I think this pandemic will increase globalization. Maybe supply chains will be less dependent on China alone, but China supply could be replaced by manufacturing development in other countries. And so in a way, this is an opportunity for other countries in Asia, including yours and including other parts of Central Asia and also Africa. The development of online meetings and like the one we're having now actually will increase the contact between peoples of different parts of the world. Maybe less physical trips. Some of them maybe were not very useful in the beginning, and more online contact. And that will help develop online industry, online teaching, remote diagnosis for diseases, very, very important. And so we are moving more from a tangible into an intangible economy. And artificial intelligence, AI, and all this will develop. The question that we have to solve is how to manage the development of technology, which in some cases can be pervasive, with the containment of privacy. This is the big philosophical dilemma.
Absolutely. Soma, that was Michele Geraci speaking.